Verónica. I'm the founder and creative director of Hey, a design studio based in Barcelona. And yes, I live in Barcelona.
So in this podcast, I talk about creative professionals. So people who are creative, but also professional. So they do this as job. It's not like people who are doing it as a hobby. I'm curious if you can tell me about the very first time that you thought to yourself, oh, this creativity might actually be my job, be my career.
When I was in the high school, because I always have been a kid that I really love creativity. I wasn't into gym, I was like very lazy on that. And I always was on after school, I handmade things, painting, always it was creativity. So when I was in high school, I decided like to focus on more about that, on like painting a lot. All my after school classes were on that. And then when I needed to decide like university, I was 100% clear I wanted to do something about creativity. And my first option was cinema. Yeah, I wanted to be like a film director. But then my second option was design, and fortunately I went on to I went on the design. But yes, I think I realized when I was maybe 17, 18 years old, I wanted to be a creative, but I didn't know what kind of creative. But I for sure I was something about that. Yeah.
And how do you think your childhood when you were a kid, how did that formed you as a creative professional?
I always say that I transform my hobby into my profession because when I was a kid, I did so many different kind of handmade works. Like now you can see like different techniques. I did so many. My mother has many kind of products I did when I was. So it's like similar of my job now. The more techniques I know, the more knowledge I have to decide which one is the best for this project. So I think help me on knowledge about techniques, different techniques.
And if I'm correct, this year your studio, Hey, has 18 years,
18
correct?
years, I'm an
Yeah.
adult, yes.
So if you look back at, 18 years ago when you started it, like how did that feel?
I was 27. I was quite young. and before I like founded the Hey, I was working in different studios for 7 years in Barcelona. So I had some experience of working in design studios, small studios. The biggest one, I think it was 20 people, not agencies, but I have some experience, but not a lot, of course. So I had a lot of energy, and I was super excited to found something, like to create the basic things. And yeah, I think I was super happy. And I didn't know anything. I was just one client, a friend of a friend, and nothing else. So a lot of energy, positive vibes. Yes.
Did you had any insecurities or any doubts at the
Of
time?
course, I didn't know anything. I needed to learn everything, like how to create my company, just like paperwork of these kind of things, because in Spain every country is different. So just decide what kind of company, of a freelance, of a company, all these kind of things I didn't know. So I needed to ask some professionals uh, to know more about that. And yeah, everything was new, like create a name, create everything. I didn't know. I didn't have anything, just my computer, my Wi-Fi, and I think the most important thing is this energy that I had.
So in hindsight, if you would go back, is there any like advice you could give yourself to kind of make that start easier?
I did so many mistakes when I was young at the beginning, and maybe ask for help more than I used to do, because when you are young, you think you know everything, and that's not true. But I think it's good to have mistakes, because this is the process that you need to do. But maybe ask more people, like more professionals pass that made this before me, and that's the only advice I think I could give to my Vero of 18 years ago.
I'm sure there's a lot of younger professionals who look up to you. Your studio is often like voted also among like top 20 to top 10 studios around the world. You've been doing inspiring, relevant work. Even beside the just the graphic design or visual language work. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who look up to you, and I'm curious, is there any advice that you could give to a young person who is entering into the creative industry, perhaps particularly in graphic design, but let's say somebody who is inspired by also looking at what you've achieved so far? Is there any, let's say, tips?
I think just to be truth with yourself and listen, you know. And I think you need to learn from the others, that's for sure. And be surrounded with good people. If you think there's some bad vibes, bad leaders, wherever, that's not good. So let it go and find your safe circle. And because these people is the one that you're going to teach you. And I know it's not easy when you are young and you don't know, but I think like instinct is it's good. You need to listen your instinct, and and be surrounded with good people, and and learn from the others, because I think when you are young you think you know everything, and that's not true. So yes.
Are you by nature more instinctual or more overthinking?
I'm sometimes it's half half, but I'm very rational sometimes. But yeah, I think in my professional side, I trust my instinct a lot.
Let's talk a bit about how you work, basically your work routines. Um, I'm curious if you could tell me maybe how does your either average day or maybe an average week looks like. I'm aware it might change also depending on many different things, but perhaps there is like an average, let's say, week in the life of Veronica Fuerte.
I think it's very simple. I mean, maybe people think that we are super like creative and we go outside to think ideas. No, no. I think it's pretty simple. And I work at the studio every day except one day. Yeah, on Wednesdays we work from home. That's because of the COVID. We changed, and I think being physical together for me is very positive, and also for my team. And I think it's like I'm a better creative, and my team is better creatives if we are together, because that inspires us a lot. So we start on Mondays with a meeting just to understand all the week, all our timings, schedules, and then it's just every day is like I because it's a very small studio. You need to understand that it's just six people, and we are sitting in the same place. I see everybody. I'm in the middle between tables, so I can see everything. So all the time is like, Vero, can you see that? Like I guide my team at the end. They are like super free to be creative, and I just guide them. So at the end, I said I'm in everything at the studio, in management, in design, but I'm not in everything. No, I don't know how to explain that, but yes, I'm trying to be there always. Yeah, just also for small things, big things, but I trust a lot my team, so they can go alone. And when there is some like doubt, I'm there for help. But my week is pretty simple. I mean, it's regular hours. We try not to do extra hours. We finish at 6. It's like it's boring at the end. No, no, but how we work at the studio, it's very exciting. My team is, I think, is the best team I can have now.
Yeah. And how is the team organized and what are the roles you have?
We are 6, and I'm the creative director. Um, There are two designers, graphic designers, Marina and Violeta. And there is one motion designer, Laia. And Claudia is the project manager. And Agustina, she's the shop manager. Yeah, and also production side. So yes, it's just in at the end is in terms of creative, it's three people. And Laia motion designer also can help because she's also a designer. So she sometimes can help in some design aspects.
And how did the studio change within this 18 years? Has it been bigger? I assume, of course, it's been like smaller when you started, but like how did that work out so far?
I think it's the first years, of course, it was smaller, just me and one person helped me. And then through the years, there always have been like three, four, five. I think for me, five, six is the maximum size because I prefer like to be flexible, to be a small studio and grow when it's necessary. Depends on the project or with friends or freelance that we know from many years ago. Because at the end, Hey is a very small studio with a very specific style. So if we were, for example, 30 people, it would be very difficult to control this style. I will lose it. So I think it's very important like to be small. Yeah, that's the reason. I always been like this size.
You said that you're very proud and happy of your team. I'm curious if you have any tips on, let's say, both hiring, but also, I guess, managing or directing.
Wow, it's not easy. This is the one thing it changed the. This is maybe the previous question it changed a lot because I s- I am a graphic designer. I study graphic design. I didn't study like management or business side. So it's something I learned from through the years, and I decided many years ago to learn more about that because I didn't know how to lead in many ways, and yes, I for my person in business side in coaching, and that's something I did. I think 6 years or 7 years ago, I started like to receive lessons about that. And I think it's very important because when we work with people and also with creatives that we have so much ego, it's important to understand that and how to not just lead my team in terms of design, lead my team in terms of people, emotions, feelings. And this is the side I need to learn so from the last years.
And when you're considering somebody for your team, like how do you assess that? What are you looking for? I'm sure it depends from position to position, but probably there's also some universal things. So, kind of how do you judge that?
Yeah, I think, of course, the creative part is very important. I said it's 50-50. 50 is about your talent, how you approach design, sensibility in terms of how you decide colors, typefaces, like the simple ingredients. So this is something I can see in the portfolio in your work. There's the second part of the other 50% that I ask so many questions um, about, for example, how you receive a feedback, how you see yourself in a year, in 5 years. So many questions that it's not just about design. So it depends of the answers. I can see if you can be aligned with at Hey or with the team. So, but this is part of 18 years of work. Something that I learned, and also I work with my coach to know these questions. So it's a process.
What would you say you've learned from the coaching you took?
I think the best lesson I was given, it was to put limits to at work, and this is aside hiring people. Okay, it's not. I think because I was a person that maybe it was very difficult to put boundaries, limits, and because I was afraid of the answer of the other people, so of the other person. So I was like okay, no limits, no boundaries, so everybody can do whatever they want, and then there's chaos. So I learned to put boundaries, and at the end, this limits allows you to just not just for you, for the other person, like to be always almost organized, and this is the best lesson. Yeah.
You said that you're kind of working in, or that you're contributing to almost everything in a studio, but not like you're not like 100% in each thing. Like, how do you balance all those different things? So kind of the creative from management to kind of leadership. How does it play out in your day or in your week?
I I play it in organically. I don't decide like now I'm going to design to focus on design for an hour. Then I'm not just like that. I mean it organically during the day. So for me, I think the timings the deadlines of the clients marks you like how you approach design on the aesthetic part, and then through the day I can balance everything. I'm not just alone, I have a team, so I think it's good that you can delegate things to your team and know how to delegate, because if not, of course I can't do everything. Yeah, it's impossible.
Yeah. And while we're talking about these more kind of practical stuff of running a studio, let's also touch upon the very important and quite tricky topic of finances, which can often be a challenge for many creatives. I'm curious if you have any, let's say, money or financial lessons that you've learned over the years.
I'm not sure I'm the best person to answer this. um, I'm a person that I don't risk in terms of money. So I always try like to be safe in many aspects. So yeah, I think when I don't like to waste a lot. So that's the reason I keep it just in case in the future happens something. But I think sometimes in design or in your career, you need to invest to win. So I think sometimes it's good, like if you have a little bit amount of money that you can spend, invest in you, invest in your studio, in creating new projects. You don't need a client to make it happen. So this is my thing I did for all these years. So if you want, for example, like I don't know, work for a coffee company and you don't receive this kind of feedbacks, this kind of projects. So maybe you can create one from zero. Maybe just mock-ups, a fake project that you can show it. I mean, there are, or maybe you can like we created, for example, a coffee box for with a friend, just for show it that we can make this kind of project. But I think invent in your projects and then show it to the wall, it's good. And of course it is sometimes you need to invest some money in that. And I think it's my recommendation is like invest this money in the studio, and mainly it's not necessary in awards that are quite expensive, or save this money for you, for your studio or yourself.
So, you talk about like, investing, let's say, in your studio or in yourself. So when you look back so far, what would be, let's say, the best one you think you got the best return on the investment that you've made?
Yeah, I think from the very initial moment of Hey, I always try to explore different techniques, illustrations, so many things that there was not a client behind. So all this kind of stuff that was from the very beginning of the studio. One day, I decided like to create a store of that. So I think that was an investment because, of course, I needed to create a store, an online store, uh, create the production of this material. So this is good because at the end I will receive income of that, and through the years we opened a store. So at the end, this is I think the most important investment I did in my career, and other things of course, but this is the biggest one.
I'm curious, let's say in your daily and weekly habits, do you have any practices or habits in your personal life that you think help you with your work life?
I think I'm a person that I try like to accomplish a small objective. Not, I mean, I have a big one objective, but through the year or years, I try like to go and small step by step, like mini objectives. And because when you try to focus just in one big one, it's impossible. So for me, this podcast was a small objective, and was like, oh, today I have this meta, I need to go make this, and tomorrow is creating this small budget for that, and in 2 days, I mean, every day there is something that excites you a lot. So this is for me. This is how I approach my work, because if I wanna do a big one, it's at the end expectations is not reality. So I try like to be step by step in everything I do, in money, in work, in life. Yeah.
I think this is a good segue to a topic of growth, because obviously over 18 years the studio grew. You as a individual, I assume, grew. Like how do you, let's say, look at that process? Are you intentional about your growth? Like, do you take certain times of the year or times of the day where you kind of focus on that? Because I know that often what can happen when we're like busy and just need to like do all these different things, and people are knocking on our door, sending good interesting proposals, it can be easy to kind of almost forget about that and just like look at 5 years before and just be like, what happened. So I'm curious, how do you approach the topic of growth?
I think I have like some objectives or milestones I need to accomplish, but in many time. I mean, but not big ones, like for example, I remember 7 years, 6 years ago, something like that, I hired like Laia, that she's the motion designer, because I thought it was important like to have someone in house, because many projects, and I saw like, okay, motion is important in branding, in everything. And at that moment, we didn't have motion projects, and I invest in Laia to make it happen. So I think these small objectives you need to accomplish through the years, and and I have this in my mind, and I need to, and it's not just okay, in 2 months I need to make it happen. No, it's just in a year I need to make this. For example, the store we opened it 6 years ago. It was an objective, and of course, I was thinking about that, and it's organically. It's not that I spend like an hour or 2 hours work every day, but it's there. Okay, and I talked with my team, with my financial team, of course. So I think it's important like to have these milestones in your head, your objectives, because if not, you are going like with no direction, and it's important, like for, but it's not necessary to be big one. It's just small ones. It's okay.
And I mean, as you go along, I'm sure there's many different challenges and potentially even setbacks or failures. Are there any kind of perhaps key challenges that you can think of that you faced throughout your career?
Yeah, many. Yeah, many kind of. Yeah, I think the first years was different. I was young, no experience, and facing like big clients was a challenge. I didn't know how to talk with them, and also because of the language. Now I'm more fluent in English, but 18 years ago I was not as like now. So it was difficult for me, facing with big clients or meetings. And I think it's something that also now you can, I can say like to the young designers, invest time in present your work. and learn from teachers or people you can hire, whatever. And that was a challenge at the beginning. And then through the years, I learned that. And also being a woman, it was another challenge because I need to work harder than maybe other people, because in a meeting with all men you are the only woman, and that was something I need to force, like to be like that people trust in me. And yes, this is another challenge in my career, and this is I'm still struggling of that. And and also when you have, because design is not linear, it's ups and down. So sometimes I have no clients, I don't have projects, sometimes some months. So that's the reason you need to be safe in terms of money, because maybe there is 1 month or 2 months that you don't have clients. So this is another challenge. I mean, it's not easy to run a studio, and you need to be very focused and very determined in many, many things.
Thank you for sharing. I think it's, at least for me as well, and I'm sure for others who are trying similar things, it's also perhaps in some way comforting to hear that even, like, let's say you and your studio, who is internationally recognized, sometimes has a month or two that things don't feel like certain.
I think it's everybody. Yeah.
And how would you say perhaps your relationship to design has changed over the course of your career?
Yeah, I was super perfectionist at the beginning, super, a lot, and now I'm more relaxed. I think because I understand, okay, maybe the different levels of perfectionism, what it's necessary, what's not. So I think now I'm more free in that aspect. I'm more calm, relaxed, and I think I know what's important, and maybe it's two things, three, and the other things are less important. So in terms of how I changed, it's about perfectionist. Yeah, because I realized it doesn't exist. Because if you want to look for something that doesn't exist, you'll never be happy. So that's my the thing I learned through the years.
How has, let's say, success that you have so far, how has that, let's say, been different than maybe what you might have imagined it?
Success. Um, I don't. For me, success is being happy. It's not about uh, mm, design. I mean, if, for example, now I'm not in the studio, I'm in the countryside. I mean, and that's because my work allowed me to make it happen. And that's the best present I can have. My profession allows me to make it happen, and that's success for me. Success doesn't mean I won this award, or I don't know. For me, it's not necessary. I lost my ego many years ago. I mean, we work with many clients that are confidential, and I can't show the work. And of course, my young team, they are struggling with that, and they want to show this. I want to share that. And I said, okay, this is not possible. But for me, it's not necessary, because it's just for me. I know that I make this project. It's nice. The client is happy. And for me, it's not necessary. So this is something for me, success, in terms that it's not necessary that other people um, celebrate that. It's just I need to celebrate that for me and my wall, my intimate wall, and that's enough. For me, that's success.
I'm curious perhaps to hear a bit about more of a hot topic, let's say. I think most of the themes that I try to explore through the podcast are, let's say, more evergreen. Hopefully, people can find advice that's useful even in years' time. But at the same time, I think there's this big, let's say, elephant in the room, perhaps, that is AI. What's your take on it so far? Do you have any opinions? And also, do you even, use it in work, and how?
Yes, my opinion is that I use it every day. I love it. I use the standard one, ChatGPT, Midjourney, and many applications. And now I'm enjoying it so much. I feel like I'm in the paradise because I can make everything that it's in my mind just by myself and a machine, of course, AI. But at the same time, I feel that we are in the middle of, in between, sorry, the paradise and hell, you know? And now it's, for me, it's perfect. It's enjoying so much. It's like a drug, I need to test every day. I have this idea, I can make it happen in minutes. But I know that the future is challenging. It's not just in my category in design. I think is the world is going to change so much in 5 years. So I think it's going to be so much different as we understand now. I think the job is going to disappear. We are not going to work like, okay, I'm going to work from 9 to 5. This kind of thing is going to disappear. So it's going to be a different world. And I said it to my daughter. And I said to Nora sometimes, okay, Nora, she's 14, you are not going to work in the future. You are going to learn, you are going to the university, but all this knowledge is not going to be applied in how we make it happen now in a job. Maybe it's another way, it's in a community, or I don't know, something that we don't imagine right now. But it's going to be about your value, your values to the world. Um, it's going to change so much. So this is something I know. So if you know that, you can focus your energies, your ideas to one direction. So this is what I try to make it happen now.
Yeah. So you're very engaged with the tools and trying to be aware of what's happening.
Yeah, I think it's you need to understand what's happening, and by that it means that you need to try test everything. It's what it's now. I know it's expensive, but I think I need to understand how it works. If I understand it, I can make my ideas shine. You know. But I think the future in design now is our category is going to be creative direction. So it means that you need to have a lot of knowledge, a lot. So not just knowledge of software, of have this curiosity of AI and apps, but also the knowledge of history, how this typeface was made, why, because this is the knowledge you are going to talk and to create. Because how we are going to design is about talking, not just things with the hands, talking. And talking means knowledge.
I mean, that, brings up the topic of, creative direction or art direction. Um, and that's even now, I mean, or it's always been like one of the determining factors of, like, why we like something and why we don't like something. It's like this direction or this mood or a vibe that is behind something, and it's influenced by so many different factors. So I'm curious, how do you approach creative or art direction? Like, what's your, I guess, both with like your team, but then also, let's say, with the new tools.
I think art direction or creative direction also there is when we don't need to lose the commercial side. There is a brief. Always there's a brief. And with this brief, you have all the answers inside. And this is how art directors we need to approach that. So, okay, knowing this brief and all the answers is inside, how you make this in graphics. So here is your knowledge. All this how you approach in graphics is the your taste, your how you look to this project, and this is so sometimes personal, and and I think through the years I develop my taste, and I can be more efficient. Like, okay, I know the client and I can design very very fast because I can understand the client very fast, and that's the reason. That's just because I'm 45. Okay, when I was 27, it was impossible.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. It does take time, but when I've been following your studio's work from almost the very beginning. I think I started working professionally around probably 15 years ago. So very much in the early days, I was already going to your website or some of those like blogs, just being inspired and just looking at what you were doing. So even then, I think you did have quite a strong, let's say, look or aesthetic or like let's say point of view. And of course, it's been like also evolving over the years. At the same time, I think it's kind of stayed quite true still. So if I go now to your website, I kind of almost know also what to expect from Hey. So how did you kind of, let's say, cultivate that? Like how much was it personal versus maybe what was also what resonated on the market, what people wanted to see or pay for?
I don't follow trends, never. So I don't see how the market is going in terms of aesthetic. Um, I do works and stuff that is timeless. Sometimes if the project it's necessary like to be super trend, and because it's a very specific timing, of course I can be super trend, but I prefer like to be more timeless. And with these parameters, when you need to do something that is timeless, positive, optimistic, um, colorful. At the end, you are moving with this wall, and you can be like more creative and less, maybe more surprising or less, but always in between these ingredients. And that's the reason there is always this kind of feeling that you can see, right, Mario, from the beginning, because we are moving between these elements. And I know these elements so much. I'm cultivating it so much every day. But I think that's important. I try to maintain this, and I know the rules, and my team know the rules. How we can go or not, or maybe this is too fast, but maybe this project needs to be more fast. Sorry, far away, from these ingredients. So, but I think it's going staying there, and every decision is important. Every typeface, every color is super important. So we take all these kind of decisions very strong and very true. So we spend a lot of time deciding, for example, a color. And this is what the clients, maybe they don't know. Some clients, they don't understand that, but we are happy and we are lucky that most of the clients that come to us is because they appreciate this kind of decisions.
Yeah, yeah. So there's both a point of view and a focus on craft and very much going deep.
Yes, craft is. I think craft is what is make us
Yeah.
special. Yeah.
So besides, I mean, kind of the actual work, you've been active. I mean, both as a studio and personally, just in the design industry, but also with like self-initiated projects like the Hey Shop. One of the other projects that your studio is also involved in is a podcast, Women at Work podcast. Can you tell me about how the podcast started?
It was started just before COVID, 2 weeks ago, before COVID. We did an event at the store. It was a panel, with creatives, women creatives in Barcelona, and talking about creativity, being a woman. And that was before COVID, and it was a physical event, no podcast, no recording. So also after COVID, we said, okay, we want to repeat that, but we can't be physical in a place. So why don't we do a podcast? But the main reason we create this project is because as a woman running a studio, I felt very alone through the years, the first years I didn't realize I was this is okay, But then through the years, I realized, okay, I'm alone here. When I go to conferences, when I talk with people, there is full of women in design studios. It's always women. And also in universities, all 70% or 80 is women. So why there are no more females in running studios, in creative direction? I don't understand that, because we can make it happen. So that's the reason this project came alive, because I wanted to give voice to all these persons, that women that are creating a lot of good stuff around the world, and also because we need these women to be roles models. Because when I was at the university, it was many years ago. I think I only had two, three, and now we have more, of course, but we need more and more, and that's the main reason. Like at the end, this podcast is just to give voice to many, many women, and there is Anne Guerra, that she is the host, because there's something I decide for the podcast. I'm not a journalist. I'm a designer. And Anne, she's a journalist, and she prepares super good interviews, and she's the star of the show.
I think both through the podcast, but probably also generally, you had an opportunity to, I think, meet and talk and also work with many talented and successful women, especially also like founders and leaders. Is there like a certain, let's say, maybe quality that runs through all of them that you can recognize?
Yes, I think all the women's we interview, they are very hard worker people, and I think maybe determination is one of these adjectives that always repeated so much. And it's not just like founders of leaders, it's just freelance or people that are working in big companies, small. I mean, it's very kind of different roles, but I think it's the determination and hard work is the key.
And your studio is also all women, right? All women team.
Yes, it's a coincidence. It's not because I want it like that. Because in the past we have been like different mixed, and but now it's all female. Yeah.
I think I've heard in one of your talks you talk about kind of like, I guess, what some might find also quite abstract, but like let's say this like feminine energy that you bring. Could you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, I think we all have masculine and feminine. It's not about the gender, it's about energies. In my case, I have a lot of feminine energy, and that means that I try to develop soft skills in my career and in my studio. Skills is there are a lot, so I try like to care, like to worry about my people. It's not just like, okay, I have this objective and I accomplish that, no matter how is the process. For me, the process is much important than the objective itself. So yeah, I try to inject soft skills in my process, in my team, and also with my clients. Yeah. And I think also it's good to have this balance of energies. I mean, in my team, it's not about all feminine energy. There are all kind of energies. Yeah, that is good and it's necessary.
I'm curious if you ever think, let's say, what's next. Meaning, is there, let's say, something after graphic design or after running a design studio, or just like another aspiration you might have, something else that you want to do, not just let's say when you quote unquote retire, but like maybe in the future.
There are many things that I would love to try and work. And I don't know. It's not, I mean, for me, creating ideas is what makes me happy and exciting. And creating ideas, it could be wherever. It's not necessary to be graphic design. For example, my husband, he's chef and he runs restaurant and he has restaurants. So I love, like, if one day I would love to have something together, you know, it's just ideas of the future. And it's not about design. Of course, there is a lot of creativity inside that. So this is one thing. I don't know. Also, the last time, sometimes I would love to work inside a big company. Not just have my own studio. Like I would love to be in a company that I work inside as a creative and have this vision inside, because I always work outside, and sometimes I would love to work inside and do other things. And because at the end, the studio is a small studio, sometimes I don't have the capacity or maybe the investment I need to make these things. So if I imagine like working in a big company and have these resources, maybe it's ideal, but but yes, sometimes I think about that. But there are so many ideas that I have in my head that I want to do, but sometimes I need like partners or investment. And yeah, and retirement, sometimes I'm thinking about that, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, the big question is also how that's going to look with with AI and everything that's kind of changing.
No, there is no retirement. There is no retirement, of course. No, no, no. Nobody's going to pay us for that. In Spain, you receive money for that. I think in the future, nothing about that. So save money.
Yeah, and work on, like, I guess, skills that can hopefully translate going forward. Yeah.
Yes.
So now we came to the final question I prepared for today, and I assume that it might serve kind of as a summary of what a lot of what we discussed already. So the question is, given all the stuff that you know and have experienced so far, what would be your top 3 recommendations to be a better creative professional?
Try to be surrounded with good people, positive people, empathize people. This is the best thing. Yeah, you need to focus and trust in yourself, and learn from the others, from the good ones. Yeah, and listen to them. Yeah, not just in yourself. I mean, you need to trust in yourself, but then also not just you. Like listen to the others that maybe have passed from what you are doing.
Yeah, and willing to, I guess, accept feedback.
The feedback is not about yourself. It's not a personal issue. It's about work, and work is aside your person.
Hey everyone, that's it for this episode. I hope you found it insightful, and if you have enjoyed it, consider sharing it with a friend. The best way to support this podcast and to keep up with the new episodes, our publishing endeavors, and the current and upcoming workshops is to join our newsletter. Also, once a month, you'll get a brief yet inspiration-packed monthly edit, which is always curated by a new creative professional. It's our popular format, created by creatives for creatives. To join our list, visit creative.voyage/newsletter. That's creative.voyage/newsletter. And lastly, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this podcast, and you can also give us an honest rating and a review. All these things help a lot to get the show out there and keep it going. Until next time, my friends, take care.